Alright, what unholy accent are we gonna hear this week, Jojo?
I don't know what will be the subject for today's Warhammer Wednesday.
I swear, if I get struck down for that accent. I actually got my hands on an early special edition copy of the Tau Codex, and I've never actually talked about space commies. I'll be honest, I considered making your accent Chinese for this video, but I've never heard any Chinese people except for some older television shows, so I'm not gonna do that. Tau have an interesting story, and I'd like to talk about is Commander Farsight, but I don't actually know the story behind the Tau that much, so I'll do some research about them before I start talking about their story. But I do have the Codex, so I'll talk about the Codex. Now, there's 4 detachments, which isn't that much, and that actually bothered me when I first saw it. I would think that a faction that doesn't have multiple parts would have so few options, but as I was looking through the data slates, I noticed there really doesn't have that much. If you look at your phone app or whatever program you'll use, you'll notice that 3 models, On-Shi, On-Va, and Longstrike, they're gone. They are in the phone app, but they aren't in the Codex. On-Shi is supposed to have great melee of a unit, especially for a ethereal. On-Va is supposed to be a support unit as well, and Longstrike is supposed to be a melee unit, though not a ethereal one. And you'll also notice that they add like 3 or 4 crew as well, and they split up the Crisis Battlesuit into 3 as well. So we used to have 3 ethereals, 1 Crisis Battlesuit, and 1 dude, really, with a fucking cannon. Now it's 1 ethereal, 3 Crisis Battlesuits, and no tank hero. I don't know why they got rid of the ethereals, but they did. I think what stings most about this is the fact that Games Workshop was selling a good-looking ethereal model as a temporary promotion for a very short time. Like, it looked good. It was plastic, and they just sold it for a short window of opportunity, despite the fact they've been claiming they've been trying to fight off a scalping issue since the release of The Death and the End, or The End and the Death Part 3. God, but let's talk about the 4 detachments. The Index one is the Koyon detachment. The idea behind it is stealth and ambush tactics. The detachment ability doesn't come into effect until round 3, which you normally know who's going to win at before that point. Round 2, by the end of it, is normally when you know, hey, I'm going to lose or I'm going to win. That being said, this detachment codex really boosts the army rule. Certain stratagems also fit into Kroot and Tau cooperation tactics. Kroot leading enemies to where you want, while Tau being the trap springers. Honestly, this isn't that bad. It's actually pretty good. Boost guns a bit late, unfortunately, though. The second one is Montka, which makes me think of the Chinese martial arts films with that name. This one is based around Commander Farsight and Shadow Sun, and it's the exact opposite of Koyon. If Koyon is wait and strike, Monka is push and assault. It gives lethal hits and the assault to ranged weapons in the first half of the game. This detachment is probably the best, as it allows you to strike first, strike fast, strike last, and go in full Sun Tzu on your opponent's ass. Stratagems are built for Force 2, and I love that. Honestly, if I ever make a Tau army, I think I'll utilize this detachment the most. Next up, we probably have the worst detachment, and it's still pretty good, Retaliation Cadre. This one's rule gives your battle suits a bonus if they're closer to the enemy, giving another push feeling to it. But it's definitely sort of lacking in how a generalist should be. If Koyon is stealth build, Montka is aggressive build, Retaliation should feel like a generalist sort of build. The stratagems and enhancements take a piece from other armies already. Teleportation from the Necrons or Grey Knights, grenades from the Space Marines, and recovery from the Necrons again. Long-range machine warfare from the Imperial Guards and such. The last doesn't actually utilize Tau at all. It uses Kroot, and you probably knew that this was coming with how they've been showing off the Kroot box set and how this book came from the Kroot box set. The Bird Lizards got a lot of love this codex, and getting their own detachment in the Kroot hunting party. It gives all Kroot in your army a Feel No Pain 6+ for melee and 5+ for range, which is great really, and gives the Kroot carnivores the battle line keyword as well. The Flesh Shapers, the Trail Shapers, and the War Shapers all get their own enhancements, giving them faster speed, giving them sniper weapons and boosted crit, and various other such things. This detachment definitely has the most love of any of them. It feels thematic and good for the game. Is it good? I don't know. Kroot can't use the army ability for the greater good, which we'll talk about now. For the greater good actually comes with a picture on how the hell this ability works. It's a bit of a complicated one because it also ties into drones as well, which is kind of part 2 of this ability as well. Now, what it does is it lets one unit spot for another unit using a ranged attack. When you spot, you get a +1, or the targeting unit gets a +1 against said unit spotted, but a -1 for any other unit targeted. So, say you have a unit and you claim, or you in your shooting phase say, this is spotting for that, against this. If the 4 unit, the guided unit, decides to target something else that isn't spotted, it gets a -1 to the attack roll. And if you decide that the unit that's spotting, if it has the mark light keyword, it also, or the spotted unit against that, also ignores cover, so it doesn't matter where they are on the map. Now there's technically two parts to this, as I mentioned. The drone option, there's 5 different drones, and in your Codex you'll see optional war gear. Drones are sometimes one of them, and it will have one of 5 options: the Guardian, Gun, Marker, Missile, and Shield drones. In that order, they provide the following: subtract 2 wound rolls received, assault and twin linked shit gun, mark light keyword that we mentioned before, high range shit missile, and a bonus to your character's wound characteristic. In that order. Now, not all units have the drone usage, but most do, except for the Kroot. You can add them in as war gear. But there is one thing I want to read word for word here, and it actually points out what the Tau are actually like. Very often they are mistaken for the, quote, good guys. But let's read this word for word, coming from the perspective of a Asmontrell, a Cuevesa, which is a human in service of the Imperium of the Tau Empire, and a former Imperial missionary. Word for word. First, they came to us with offers of hope and words of friendship. Blinkered as we were by false faith, we mistook sincerity for duplicity, and made hate our answer. Next, they came to us with strength, and it was no more than we deserved in our ignorance. In fire they shrove us, yet when the fighting was done, they offered us amongst the ashes and embraced us anew. All this they did for the greater good. Now, I want to point out what that is. That is, by definition, Stockholm Syndrome. They fired on us, they did not kill us, and they offered us a new place. That is, by definition, mental manipulation and Stockholm Syndrome. And there is a whole section of the book that talks about how this is how the Tau prefer to work. Gun diplomacy. But I also want to talk about how I appreciate y'all getting to me to 100 with the stupid elf thing. I do plan on doing that again next year, but with different elves. You can also follow me on twitch.com/ancientcampaigns, and right now, well, not at the moment, but as of yesterday, I am streaming Fire Warrior, the PS2 game and the first Warhammer video game to be created, so follow me there. I'll be bitching about the old PS2 controls scheme there, but for now, shove off.